everyone. So wonderful to have everybody together, even if it's virtual, after such a length of time that we haven't been able to get together. But we're going to make the best of this. I'm going to give you a little demonstration on early fall flowers and greenery in the garden. I'm really excited because next year my little cottage garden that I'm working on is going to be in the garden tour, along with Jason and Heather's house. I have a container here, and you can see it's a wonderful container. I found it. I look for containers everywhere, and I found it up in Maryland at an antique shop near Johns Hopkins University. I was up there one time, and I just love it because of the shape. And I'm using foam. You could use chicken wire, works in some of them, and those form type cages, but when they're not very deep, I don't like to do that because I feel like it's not enough water in there to hold it well enough. And I think so that's why I'm using foam. So if somebody wants to know, but you could do it if you wanted to, but I'm using what I think will get more moisture to the flowers. And this is a shrub, and I'm sorry, I apologize, I do know the name, I just can't remember right off the top of my head. It may be in the laurel family, but it's wonderful. And I had a really big one over at the old house next door, but it got whacked down with the construction. So I'm going to get another one and get it in this garden so I'll have it to use. Everything I plant with the thought, can I use it in a flower arrangement? You know, what uses can it be for me, and what colors do the foliages change throughout the year? And that's what is really important when you're planting a garden. And you can see right here, I call it my killer yellow dahlia. I love those. They're just absolutely beautiful. They're getting happy now because they like it cool nights. The cooler the nights get, the happier they'll be. And that's why they don't do as well here in the summer as they do in Oregon and Maine, where the nights are cool and the days are cooler. The heat really does bother them, their performance, but they will be beautiful now until frost. I'm going to turn that around just so you can see what I've done with that foliage. Following a line. You could do any type of design you wanted. I tell people, do what makes you happy. Don't try to make everybody else happy. That'll never happen. You know, just fulfill your own desires and where you want to put it in your house, or if you're doing it to give to a friend. And that's another thing I want to remind everybody. If you have garden flowers, it doesn't matter what it is. A few zinnias. There's a lot of people who are by themselves, who can't get out, who are afraid to go anywhere. And I try to, you can say just little kinds of things that are around the kitchen practically. Put a few flowers in it. It makes the biggest difference. They're so thrilled when you just sit it by the door and call them and tell them you left them something. I think now more than ever we need to be thinking of our neighbors and the people that can't get out. Same way, if you're going to the grocery store and you have somebody you know that might need groceries, just call them and see. It's so easy if you're already there.
What does that mean?
This is my variegated abelia, which is right there in the garden. Has a little white bloom on it, because when you're using a white container, that is one old rule that I still believe in. Because white is the most reflective color, you need a little white in the arrangement. Or I think when the eye looks at it, you can tell there's something not quite right, and that's it. It's the balance of that color, lack of the reflection of the white. See, I just put a bit of that in it. This is a little table because I had to wedge it in here in front of my little shed. I'm going to fill it in the back some. I also have some ligustrum. I love ligustrum because it's a wonderful foliage for flower arranging. And so I don't trim it until I need it. That's the way I do about a lot of things in this yard. And I'm sure sometimes my next door neighbor Jason's like, what in the world is a jungle over there? But they just laugh. They know I've got a plan. You can see the beautiful little bloom on this. In the fall it gets a little tinge of color to it. Reddish tinge. but it stays variegated. So I wanted different color in this little garden next to me. So I tried to find things that would blend and give a little interest. Put a little bit more white in here. And then I'll put my piece de resistance.
My yellow.
So this dahlia is gorgeous. I took one to a friend that was not too well the other day, and oh my gosh, we just had a fit. Here's a bud just starting to come. You don't need many when they're nice and showy like these. And you need to cut your dahlias. The more you cut them, the more they'll produce. I'm going to turn this so you can see it.
Yeah. Ooh.
Pretty. And this is called Gara. And that's in my garden. It's very wispy, so I cut a little bit of that. And it does hold up. Of course, all of you know what this is. Dusty Miller. This plant is, I think, 2 years old now. And it got huge this year. And even had a gold bloom on it in the summer. That's how big it got. And it will bloom like that. And you want to plant it in the garden and let it winter over because it'll get even bigger. And that's how you'll get all this cutting.
So you can take it out of your pots at the end of this?
No. I have it in the ground. But it'll live in the pots too.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll last in the pots. Hi, Heather. And so I'm putting a little bit of Dusty Miller here and there. I'll turn it around in a minute and you can see it. We had to say hi to Heather. She just went by. Just add a little bit of that. Of course, it is a challenge during the heat of the summer here. I was watering twice a day. And of course, I haven't had as much to do. I had rotator cuff surgery the 30th of December, so I was nursing that in the spring, but once I couldn't go to therapy anymore, I did my therapy here in the yard. And I got released at 6 months. Dr. Tuesday said I was doing great. Lifting all those pots and digging all those holes helped. So I was careful. When it hurt, I'd stop, rest a while, and then start up again. And then turn it around just now so you can see. I go out and just gather a bunch of stuff, and then I decide what I'm doing. And I see what I've come up with. Turn it around so you can see it. You have to make sure you feel for your oasis, because it's hard for me to see it with the greens in here. So that you get it in there really well. Now you can see how easy, how quick, how simple. And I also put some river birch in it. I love my river birch for the greenery. This time of year, the greenery holds up beautiful. I've used it in wedding work and all kinds of work because it has movement. And that's what I love about it. You know, it's so beautiful. It'll blow in the breeze and soft looking. It's a great accompaniment. And then you can trim the tree at the same time. You know, because they're prolific growers and they're happy. I like to make sure the back of the arrangement is completely done. You don't want to see mechanics. I cannot stand that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, the so-called professional florists. When I see all the mechanics showing, it tells me a lot. Around. Now see how easy and quick that was? Everybody goes, oh yeah, you can do it quick, which is true. I understand. I have been doing this forever. 50 years, well, more than 50 years, because when I was 6 years old, I started. So I won't tell you how many years. I bought these artichokes 2 weeks ago at the store. And I bought the fresh ones because I saw some dry ones and they were really expensive. I thought, wait a minute. So I bought these, they were on special, cut the stem off, put the wooden pick in it. Now you can use anything that is strong. I suggest it be wood because then it'll hold up in the water. And just set them in a bowl in the kitchen, let them dry. They're almost completely dried now. No mold or anything on them. Just let them air dry. See how easy? I love just that soft green.
And you
look
said that
natural.
took about 2 weeks for
Yes.
them to get like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And my house is a little bit, my little cottage is a little damp, so I use damp rid. To keep the dampness out. Of course, it's been raining like crazy, so yeah, it's damp, all right. You know. Oh, now I'm going to bring up a container that I just love. Let you see it.
Oh,
It has an oval of birds. I love birds.
let me see if I can zoom in a little
It's
bit.
from a company that I used to sell, and I love their stuff. And this container is so wonderful. All I've done, I did this so this could be faster. You can see it. I just put these hydrangeas. I cut them. This is Friday. I cut them Wednesday and put them in buckets with no water because these are limelights.
Yep.
And they're already starting to dry on the bush. So this time of year is safe now, as long as there were some blooms that had just come out and they're white. You don't cut those because they're going to shrivel up on you. But these are already drying on the bush itself, and that's how you want to cut them. So I've just filled in. I have Oasis in the container. I'll take this. To line this container, I didn't have anything that fit it. So I took some polyfoil, which is a potting foil that I use in the shop that has a plastic liner.
Okay.
Not all people use that kind of foil because it costs more, but that's the only kind I would use because it will protect everything from the leaking water. Some of the times you buy them at the store, they're wrapped in that inexpensive foil, but it is not poly-lined. So now I'm going to add some ivy, which I just cut from the garden this morning, and some oak leaves. And it's off of an oak tree that my used-to-be neighbor of this little cottage had this oak tree cut down, and he left the stump because it was involved with the fence, so we just left it. So now this huge branch has come out of the stump, and I love it. I'm going to use it in Garden Day to create something. So it's going to be fun. But I said, oh no, I'm not going to cut that off, so I can use those leaves in the fall. So I like oak leaves as well. And they haven't, of course, started turning yet; they're still green, but they're great whether they're turned or not. I'm just adding some ivy that I have over on my little patio. I think we're going to all be ready for Garden Week next year, aren't we?
Yes.
After being confined and having missed Garden Week last year. So this one's going to be really wonderful. We're going to pray. We'll have our shots by then, hopefully. Somebody said, I'm not taking it. I said, I'm taking it as soon as they've got it. Because I want to go somewhere. I was supposed to go to Chelsea last year. I was taking my niece. We were so excited, so hopefully we'll get there this year. You can see I'm just adding the ivy into the oasis. Make sure you get it to the oasis. You just have to add water maybe every 4 days. Depends on how warm your house is. If it's real cool with the air conditioner going, you could probably wait 5 days or so. Now I'm going to put a few of these oak leaves because I want this to have a autumnal feel, but it's not going to be orange and yellow. Sometimes you don't want orange and yellow. It depends on your decor. And sometimes at Thanksgiving, it doesn't have to be orange and yellow to be fall. Purple is a big fall color. If you look at it in the landscape, and the burgundies are a big fall color. I'll put these over here. And I have some little white pumpkins. I found these, a whole bunch of them with nice stems. You want stems because if the stem is broken off, the pumpkin is going to decay much faster. Plus, I want them for the look.
Good tip. That's a good tip.
The look is the most important thing to me because I think they look prettier with a pretty stem. So I picked them, but I found them 2 weeks ago at Giant right here in town, and I think they were $10 for $10, which is pretty good for those little white pumpkins. Last year there was, I think, a shortage of white, because I could only find a few. And I had gone different places looking. I was in upstate, well, up on the Hudson River in the end of October, and I found, oh my gosh, the biggest gourds I'd ever seen in my life, and fabulous cabbages, the biggest flowering kales and cabbages I'd ever seen. Of course, I bought some and brought them home. found tons of bittersweet growing. I cut that out of the trees. That car was so loaded, we could hardly get in it. I think my girlfriends who were with me were afraid I was going to have to sacrifice one of them before they would have to walk home. But we had a great time. Now I'm going to add a little bit of the birch. You can see how autumnal that looks. Now I think I'm just going to stick these in here. They don't have to travel. They're not going to be going anywhere. If I had to move it around, I'd put a pick in it. But you don't have to do that at your own house. And that will make these last even longer because you didn't put the pick in them. Turn that around just so you can see that just looks pretty just with the green and white.
It really does.
And I love green and white. But I'm going to add a few more things. I have these gorgeous stallions in this beautiful shade of magenta. I'm going to put a few of these in. I have celosia in here. I have some leaves from my coral bells, which I'm trying to get a big variety of them. I think I've got 8 types so far, but I'm going to get some more for my shade garden. And I'm going to have everything labeled. I've got my list going. And I have a dear friend who used to work for me who has her master's degree in horticulture.
Who's that?
Dina. She's small. Everybody probably remembers her. She was real small, blonde, and I'm gonna have her in the garden too, so she can answer questions.
What a treat.
Intelligently. 'Cause nothing upsets me more than when people give the wrong information. And I go to some of the supposed garden centers around here, and people are asking, "Is this a perennial?" And they're holding up an annual, and the person will say, "Oh yes." They say it'll come back, and they go, "Oh yes." And usually, if I can get to them, I just say, that is not coming back next year. Because they think they've done something wrong. And then they give up trying. And I want everybody to want to get in the garden. They're finally talking about how good it is for you physically and mentally. I said, get off the antidepressants and get out in the yard. Is what I say, you know. I've been sad that we have COVID going on, but in a way it's been good for me so I could stay put and get this yard in shape. But I'm ready for it to go on now. This is a type of beautyberry, Calocarpus. I have 3 kinds in the garden. There's one over here just starting to color, and this is my favorite because look at the size of these berries, and it's this gorgeous magenta color. Oh, love it. And I also cut some grasses. With my cat, I had this in the house this night, and Wilhelmina, I turn around and she's got a piece of it playing with it. I said, Wilhelmina, Mommy needs that tomorrow. Of course, she didn't care. Wilhelmina, she's sitting right below Rennie where she's taping.
She's helping me work the camera. She's my assistant.
Yeah. This just gives it a little height and interest, and it makes it interesting. People say, what is that? You know, some of this, I call some of it roadsidea.
Call it what?
Roadsidea. I look on the road as I'm moving around, and if I see something I like, I just pull over and get it. So sometimes it backfires on me because I've had people stop and think I'm in trouble. I'll go, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just picking stuff.
You and Betsy Carey.
Yeah, then they laugh. And then I have some coxcomb selection, which I really like.
Now, did you grow that here,
No, I
Jan,
didn't.
or you bought it?
I bought it, but I'm going to try to dry it.
Oh, good idea.
With the air method, but you put a little bit of water in the container with this and just let it stay, and then maybe change your water every week to 10 days and keep watching it, and the water will eventually evaporate, and that should keep it and keep its color.
Huh. Another good tip.
Yeah. But these hydrangeas are nothing to do. They're so simple. I love this color. It's so rich. Turn it around and you can see this big piece of oasis. I put a nice sized piece in there because I knew I had a lot going in it. And you can turn your pumpkins any way you want them. They're just kind of nestled in this. And you could always throw in something, pine cones, or to give it a later autumnal look. You could even take this container and mound it with pine cones, put some oasis in the bottom, and then stick a few flowers in between the pine cones. It's just wonderful. I look for containers all the time that are interesting, and I look for certain shapes.
We've got a construction project going on across the street here.
Yes, the old Freenet Star building. It was built like a fortress, and we're 7 months in to demolition now.
Wow.
And this is peaceful compared to what it's been. You can imagine. Woo! I have tinnitus in my ears, and I've got one ear that's gotten so much worse.
Oh, no.
I think it's because of it. It's been so loud. One time it was so much shaking going on that Jason and Heather and the children and I all had sore teeth. That's how hard, because I said to Jason, my teeth are so sore. He said, ours are too, Jan. I think it's the shaking.
Wow.
That's how hard it was shaking us, because they really had to hit that thing, that concrete, to get it to bust up.
Now, what is that called? Because
This
that's
is
just a weed, isn't
yes,
it?
this is pokeberry. I got it right down the corner.
It's called
Well,
what?
Pokeberry.
Pokeberry.
You see a lot of it in Virginia.
Yeah.
And I got it down in the corner here by the fence.
Okay.
And I watched it. It comes there every year. And it's just getting ripe. And the birds love it.
Uh-huh.
So they've been
I
eating
have a
it.
lot of that at King and Queen in the outskirts
It
of my
looks
yard.
pretty with eggplants too. I've used it with eggplants
Oh, yeah.
before. But this is basically everything in here except pumpkins, and this is a garden sedum that I bought the plant, and this one I bought the flower, but I didn't buy anything else in here. Turn around, let you see it. On both sides.
Oh, did we put the artichokes in it?
Not yet.
Hang on, I gotta get.
I'm showing you the things you can do.
Hold this.
And here I can tuck in a couple artichokes,
Oh, love that.
just to give it a little more interest. And then, here's my basket. My gathering basket. I'll get it. If you wanted to, you could add a little gold to it. Say if you were planning, just tuck these pine cones in it. Pick up the gold in the container. Is my thought on that. I'll turn around so you can see it.
Now, how often should you water that, Jan?
I would take it to the sink, and if you have a deep sink, or put it by the sink, that's probably good enough. Just put either a towel or something under it, and use a narrow spotted watering can. And you can get your finger tucked up under here, and you can feel inside there. And when you feel the water on your finger, then you know you've got plenty of water in it. The only thing in here is the dahlias that need water and the greenery. Some of this stuff is practically dry in this arrangement, just like it is.
So, how long will those dahlias typically hold up if you
That'll
water
be the
them?
first thing to go. And they might make it 5 days, but then all you have to do is pull them out.
Right.
They're really
And you've
not.
got plenty of other plant
Right.
material.
And then the pokeberries might go next, but you might get down to the pumpkins and the celosia, and you still have a pretty arrangement.
Right.
So it's built in, I kind of built it and made it into layers. So you can make a couple layers and it still looks great. I'll just hold that up so you can see how pretty it is. I hope this gave you all a little tip, and I hope everyone's feeling well and getting excited about Garden Day. And we hope to be together again soon. Have a great day, a great year. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jan.
You're welcome.